In the intricate dance of global energy politics, a seismic shift has just occurred, sending shockwaves through markets and geopolitical circles alike. A significant development is underway, one that could redefine the economic landscape of the war in Ukraine. China, long considered Russia's most crucial economic partner and a financial lifeline, has unexpectedly paused all purchases of Russian seaborne crude oil. This isn't a minor adjustment. It's a full stop from the world's largest oil importer, a nation that has been absorbing Russian barrels at a record pace. This abrupt decision emerges directly on the heels of stringent new American sanctions, marking a major turning point in the West's economic strategy. These aren't just another round of restrictions. They represent a significant escalation in the economic campaign against Moscow. The new rules are designed with sharper teeth, targeting not only Russian entities but also the international banks, traders, and shipping companies that facilitate the trade. This is the threat of secondary sanctions made real. For the past 2 years, the arrangement was clear. China absorbed vast quantities of Russian oil shunned by the West, providing a vital stream of revenue to the Kremlin, albeit at a significant discount. In return, Beijing secured a steady, cheaper source of energy to power its vast industrial economy, insulating itself from global price volatility. This symbiotic relationship was a cornerstone of their declared no-limits partnership. Now that foundation appears to be cracking. The sudden halt signals that even for Beijing, the risk of getting caught in the web of U.S. financial sanctions may outweigh the benefits of discounted Russian crude. The move is particularly striking coming from Beijing, which has consistently and vocally opposed Western sanctions while simultaneously boosting its trade with Russia to record highs. The fact that even China's state-owned oil giants are pausing their purchases demonstrates that this strategic alignment has its limits, especially when faced with credible and significant external pressure that threatens their access to the global financial system. The message is clear: business interests and financial stability are paramount. A new muscular package of U.S. sanctions was the catalyst for China's sudden policy shift. These weren't just symbolic gestures. They were a direct and calculated strike at the financial architecture supporting Russia's energy exports. Washington targeted the very heart of Russia's oil industry, aiming to disrupt the flow of petrodollars that fuels Moscow's economy. The state-owned giant, Rosneft, was squarely in the crosshairs. So was Lukoil, Russia's largest private oil company. Together, these firms are responsible for shipping over 3 million barrels of crude oil every single day, a significant portion of global supply. By placing them on the specially designated nationals list, the U.S. effectively weaponized access to the dollar-centric financial system. Think of it like a global financial blacklist. Once you're on it, any bank, insurer, or trader that does business with you risks being cut off from the U.S. dollar themselves. The measures were meticulous, designed to be inescapable. They covered not just the parent companies, but a sprawling network of subsidiaries and affiliates, like Lukoil Western Siberia, ensuring there were no easy loopholes. The stated aim was to inflict enough economic pain to push Moscow toward constructive talks, altering its strategic calculus by choking its primary revenue stream. The real power rests in these secondary sanctions. They create a massive compliance risk for any third-party entity. For a Chinese state-owned bank, for example, financing a shipment of Rosneft crude suddenly becomes a high-stakes gamble. The risk of losing access to U.S. markets, where they conduct trillions of dollars in transactions, is simply too great. Deeply integrated into global finance, China's state oil firms could not afford that kind of isolation. To grasp the impact, look at the scale of the Russia-China oil trade. Since the war began, China became Russia's top oil customer. In 2024 alone, purchases reached about $62.6 billion. That money offset sanctions and bankrolled the war effort. Pausing seaborne imports threatens this revenue stream directly. Pipelines continue, but most flows arrived by sea, about 1.4 million barrels per day of a 2.1 million total. If roughly two-thirds halt, Moscow risks around $40 billion annually. With reserves worn down and recession risk rising, the timing is brutal. To find new buyers, Russia likely offers even steeper, revenue-crushing discounts. The impact extends beyond China, creating a domino effect that has reached India. India surged purchases post-2022, becoming Russia's second-largest customer. Now, after sanctions on Rosneft and Lukoil, New Delhi signals a scale-back. Fear of secondary sanctions is a powerful motivator across the region. Washington pairs pressure with incentives. Assurances from Prime Minister Modi suggest a policy pivot away from Russian energy. Reports indicate U.S. tariff cuts on Indian exports, sweetening the shift. Combined with China's pause, India's reduction is catastrophic for Russia's oil-dependent economy. It shows the reach of U.S. economic statecraft through the global financial system. The international reactions to the sanctions were swift and predictable, yet revealed complex undercurrents. Moscow responded with public anger and defiance, with Kremlin spokespeople issuing statements warning that Russia will not act under external pressure. Officials framed the measures as another front in an economic war waged by the West, designed to destabilize the Russian state. Senior figures like Dmitry Medvedev labeled the sanctions tantamount to an act of war. But this bellicose rhetoric likely masked deeper anxieties. The sudden halt in seaborne crude to its single largest customer, China, represents a catastrophic loss of revenue and leverage, a vulnerability the Kremlin is loath to admit. Beijing, for its part, played a careful double game. Diplomatically, it decried the unilateral sanctions, reiterating its long-held position that such measures are illegal without a United Nations Security Council mandate. Yet, behind the scenes, its state-owned energy giants quietly paused all new seaborne purchases. This wasn't a political statement, but a pragmatic business decision to avoid the crosshairs of U.S. secondary sanctions. Meanwhile, Ukraine praised the sanctions as a necessary and fair step, directly linking the costs of the ongoing conflict to Russia's economic engine. For Kyiv, any measure that curtails Moscow's ability to fund its war effort is a welcome development. China's quiet compliance, however reluctant, exposes the deep and growing asymmetry in its relationship with Russia. The No Limits partnership suddenly has very clear, financially driven limits. This single act of commercial self-preservation did more to reveal Russia's profound dependency on China than years of political rhetoric ever could. With Moscow's options narrowing, President Xi can now extract even steeper discounts and more favorable terms from a weakened Kremlin, not just for oil, but across all economic and strategic domains. Russia has become the junior partner, forced to sell its most vital resource at a cut-rate price to maintain cash flow. Of course, the financial bleeding isn't total. The vast network of pipelines connecting Siberia to China continues to operate, accounting for roughly one-third of pre-sanctioned volumes. This ensures that cash flow doesn't vanish entirely, providing a baseline of revenue for the Russian budget. To circumvent the seaborne restrictions, China and Russia may pursue clandestine workarounds. This could involve ship-to-ship transfers in remote waters, using a dark fleet of uninsured tankers, or falsifying documentation. But each of these methods adds layers of cost, complexity, and risk, shrinking profit margins for Moscow. Whether this disruption is temporary or becomes a lasting feature of the global energy map, the immediate shock is severe. It is fundamentally reshaping energy flows, stoking market volatility, and starkly redefining the balance of power between two global giants.